So today we're going to be talking about politics and gaming, two topics that really don't mix very well. But I can promise you guys this isn't going to be me telling you guys to vote for a particular candidate over another or support one political party over another, because I don't care who you're voting for or if you're not voting at all. That's your decision to make and yours only, and don't let some jerk off online try to tell you how to vote or whether or not you should vote at all. That's entirely your decision. And don't ever let anyone try to make you feel bad for the choice that you make, whatever that may be. No matter who you're voting for, what party you're voting for, if you're voting for a third party, or if you're just sitting at home or you write someone in. And that's what these YouTubers and influencers don't seem to understand. Yeah, there are a few dumb people out there that if someone on Twitter tells them to vote for someone, they're just gonna follow what that person says because they can't think for themselves. But the majority of people, they're not gonna change their vote just because some blue check mark told them to. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me for these gaming creators to open their mouths and run their mouths about politics and vilify other people who think differently than they do. It's almost like they live in their own bubble and they think so highly of themselves. They think, oh, I can't be wrong, just the other people who think differently than I do, they're wrong. But the thing that pisses me off the most is that they're doing it on a platform that's really not appropriate for political discussions like this, especially since it's all one-sided and you're not even open to have a conversation. It's just like, no, fuck Donald Trump, fuck Joe Biden, or whatever their position is. Like, they don't even think there's room to even talk to other people. That's one thing. But the other thing is, dude, it's video games. You know what I mean? Like, people are into video games because it's a fun thing. And considering how fucked up the world is right now with the pandemic and everything happening, people want an escape from all the bullshit going on in the world. But these people, and I'm not going to name any names, but these YouTubers that focus primarily on gaming, that's pretty much the only reason why they're successful, is because of their gaming content, and that's the reason why people follow them. For some reason, they feel obliged to open their mouth and share their views on politics. I remember there was one YouTuber that was, again, he focused primarily on gaming. He pretty much regurgitates news articles. That's his whole way of making a living. He talks about gaming rumors and stuff that is obviously not true and it's fake shit, but he gets clickbait out of it, and that's how he makes money. He decided a few months ago to get into politics and to start talking about that, and his YouTube subscribers started to plummet. So he had to backtrack on that and be like, oh no, I can't do politics anymore. Here's the thing these people don't realize. It's not that you're talking about politics. It's that you're talking about politics on a platform where it's not appropriate. A platform about video games. Like, there are people who play video games that have a wide variety of different worldviews. Why are you bringing up something that's gonna just divide people where we don't need division? There's very few things that keep us together as people. And I think video games are one of those things that can keep us together and can bring people together. But these YouTubers, they want to exploit their platform because really it makes them feel powerful, right? They have 100,000 followers on Twitter, 500,000, 1 million followers, and they can't help but to feel like they have influence over people, and it makes them feel good about themselves. Oh, look at me, I'm sharing my political voice on Twitter, and look at how much influence I have. It's all about power, and it's all about feeling important, having that self-importance. But all it does is drive people further and further apart from each other. And for something like video games, which is supposed to be a game, it's supposed to be fun, there's no need for that kind of division. Especially when we already kind of have that in the video game community with PlayStation fanboys and the Xbox fanboys. I mean, they're arguing so much about which piece of plastic is better than the other, the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox Series X. And what I find ironic is that a lot of the gaming channels that like to make fun of fanboys, they're the ones that are engaging in partisan politics on Twitter or even on their YouTube channel. They make political videos on their gaming channel and they talk about how console fanboys are stupid. Why don't we all come together? It doesn't matter if you play on a PlayStation or an Xbox or PC, Nintendo. We're all gamers at the end of the day. But at the same time, they're talking about how this candidate is better than the other, and if you support this other candidate, go fuck yourself, you're an evil piece of shit, fuck you. Like, what the fuck? You're doing the same shit. If you're registered with a political party and you think that your side is always right and the other side is always wrong, you're no different than the PlayStation fanboys and the Xbox fanboys that think they're always right about everything too. Except if you're a political fanboy, you're even worse because politics actually has an effect on people's lives, and you're just unwilling to listen to the other side of things, or to listen to any different perspective. You think, no, you're always right, your political party is always right, it's always team red or team blue. I guess we're just incapable of thinking for ourselves and coming up with our own opinions, right? It's just so frustrating. That's why I don't really engage with politics that much these days, because it just doesn't feel productive. You can never have a productive conversation with anybody about politics, because people are always convinced that they're always right, and if you challenge any of their beliefs, it's a very hostile situation because they feel like you're challenging their whole identity, their whole worldview, and they feel very threatened by that. And I really see no meaningful difference between people like Tucker Carlson, Rachel Maddow, you know, like those cable news people. I see no difference between them and JTech TV. JTech is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, Sony PlayStation fanboy on the internet. He thinks Sony is always right. He thinks that these people in charge of Sony actually give a fuck about him as a person. And it's the same thing with these political hacks. They think that the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, that they actually care about you as a person. But none of them do. They only care about themselves. And if you think anything different, then you're a fool. I mean, you have no idea about how the world actually works. It's just reality. They only care about advancing themselves, and, you know, when it comes to businessmen like Phil Spencer, it's about making as much money as possible. We're talking about politicians, it's about gaining as much power as possible. They don't care about you, and they never will. So I have about as much respect for partisan hacks for loyal Democrats and loyal Republicans as much as I do for the Sony and Xbox fanboys. Because to me, there's no difference. It's all tribalistic bullshit. It's people who refuse to think for themselves and keep an open mind and attack other people who think differently. And I just have zero respect for people who engage in that type of behavior because it's childish. It really is. Now, I will say this one final point. I don't think that video games and politics, inherently, they must be separate, because the game I'm playing right now, Fallout 4, there's plenty of politics involved in that game. Choosing between the Brotherhood of Steel, and the Institute, and the Minutemen, the Railroad, all these different factions, and you can make certain choices in the game. There are plenty of political implications in Fallout 4. What happens to the ghouls? What happens to the synths? And how can we rebuild civilization 200 years after a nuclear holocaust? And you also have a similar dilemma with Skyrim, choosing between the Stormcloaks and the Imperials. There are a lot of political implications in those game worlds based off the choices you make. But what I love about those games, even though there's a lot of politics in it, first of all, it's not really connected to what's going on in the real world. I mean, you can draw parallels, of course, but Bethesda doesn't try to lean you in a certain direction and tell you how you should make your choices. They just give you the lore and give you the background and put the story right in front of you, and you just have to make those decisions yourself. They don't make the choices for you. And that's how it should be in these video games. And that's how it should be in real politics too. If I told you guys who I'm voting for in this upcoming election, and that if you vote for the other person, you can go fuck yourself, is that going to really change your mind? I don't think so. So why are people engaging in this awful behavior? And why does it have to spill into something that's supposed to be a fun hobby like video games? Video games are supposed to be an escape from reality. I thought that was the whole point. Politics and gaming, they're like jacking off with Vicks VapoRub. It's a really bad combination because it just doesn't have any relevance to the video game industry. Talking about who you're voting for in the fucking election. It's very irritating when I see these news outlets and these YouTubers get involved in shit like that because it has no relevance in video games whatsoever. And even when they are related, like for example, all these politicians going out there saying video games cause violence, obviously there are political implications because they're threatening to pass legislation that would censor video games and censor adult content. Like, okay, stuff like that, it makes sense, but even then, I remember when, what was it, a year ago, 2 years ago, there was a big shooting, and you had Donald Trump or whoever, and all these, I guess, Republican politicians, they were saying, it's the video games to blame. And then people in the gaming community, they were like, no, it's the guns, it's gun control, we need gun control. It's just so unproductive because we can all come together on the issue of, hey, let's stop vilifying video games and stop blaming violent video games for real-life violence because there is no correlation between the two. But then when you get into, like, other shit, like gun control and stuff like that, then people are going to be divided. And it's just my whole point is that with video games, it's the one thing that can bring us all together. And of course, we're going to disagree on like what our favorite game is and stuff like that, which platform we prefer to play on. But ultimately, we all have that same experience being gamers and enjoying video games. So why do we have to divide ourselves needlessly over shit that's going on in reality. When in virtual reality, we just don't have to deal with that. We can escape from that. It's just something I don't understand. Maybe someone in the comments can clarify why there's such a need to integrate politics with video games. It just seems like an awful, awful thing for those two things to get mixed up together. But hey, that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Thank you all for watching. And whether you're voting for Donald Trump, Joe Biden, third party, or you're not voting at all, I don't care, because I just want to play my fucking games.